Hey everybody, it's Mr. Fred Please, or Mr. Fred, or Sensei Fred, however you know me. And this is how I approach, or how I teach, long form number 1 in the Kempo Karate system. Long form 1 is a continuation of short form 1, and the two ones are your most basic and foundational forms. Ed Parker designed these to be teaching techniques, and that's what form is really all about. So in long form 1, we're now going to take what we learned in short form 1 and we're going to add pieces to it while maintaining the same principles that we already learned in short form number 1. Now, as I expressed in my short form 1 video, short form 1 is a very difficult form if you've never been a dancer or you've never done any sort of rhythmic motions in a coordinated pattern, because that's really what kata is. So I often say that sometimes it's the 8 hardest moves in Kempo Karate is short form 1. So long form 1 now takes what we learned in that video or what we learned in those concepts and we build upon it. So since it's a beginner kata, I come to attention stance. I can extend the finger to show that this is a long form. Kempo kata, long 1, horse. Again, because it's a basic form, it still does not use the advanced salutation. Now, much like in short form 1, I imagine that someone is trying to punch me straight in the nose. Now again, my right fist is already chambered. I step back with that left foot, exactly what I did in short form 1, which is an inward block. But I already learned how to do that. I already learned that when I block, I always step away from a strike and never step into one. I also have already learned that distance is my best friend, and that when I do block, I'm going to meet it to beat it so I don't eat it. So now what's the new learning that long 1 brings? The new learning is for every block, there's a follow-up. And what I did was I went from my neutral stance with the inward block to what's called a forward bow with the reverse punch. Now if you notice the reverse bow, which is unlike most traditional martial arts when they do a bow stance, they got 10 toes going forward. But because Kempo Karate is non-traditional, it's evolutionary, we keep that front foot turned. Now this is tough on the ankle, but what it's doing is it's using the knee to protect the most private area. So again, from the beginning, I can show long form 1, Kempo kata, long 1, horse. Now again, I begin with the same pattern I did in short form 1, which is an inward block. Now the new learning, reverse punch. Also, my new learning is the new stance, which is a forward bow. Now, I could try to step all the way back into my neutral and block on the other side, because remember, everything we do on one side, we do on the other, but here's the problem. And it's not just because I'm out of shape. The problem is if I'm in a perfect bow stance, that back leg is locked, I'm rooted into the ground, and my punch is strong. Now, I can't just easily step back. So what Ed Parker would teach is that this is a time for transition. So the first thing you learn how to transition is your stance. And I'm now in a cat stance. Some people call it an L stance. Some people call it 70-30 stance, 80-20, 90-10. It really doesn't matter. The whole purpose of this stance is that it's quick. The front knee is bent, back knee is bent. My feet are going, making the shape of an L. Okay? Depending on who you're learning it from, the weight distribution is really unimportant. Now, from here, not only can I transition with my feet, but I also transition with my hand. Now, my hand is dead center along my center line. So if I had to, I could punch, I could block, I could parry, or I could do nothing but move. But from this stance, not only do I have a transitional foot position, I have a transitional hand position. So now I'm going to go back to the old pattern, just like we did. So if I did it on one side, I'm going to do it on the other. So there's my left inward block. Now the new learning, right follow up. Now I'm going to continue with that same pattern. So from here, I'm pretty clear. So again, I'm going to step away like I did in long kata number 1, or short kata number 1, and do my outward block. In my neutral stance strong, but now my reverse punch, forward bow. Uh-oh, can't take that easy step. So what do? Learn that I can transition on the other side. In the first part, it was the right knee and the right hand. Now this part, it's the left knee and the left hand. Now I continue through with that same pattern of upper block, counter punch. Uh-oh, I know from short one I'm at the halfway point of the form. So now I have to go in reverse. So what's the first thing I reverse? It's the reverse punch. What's the reverse of a reverse punch? Elbow strike. Now I have that opportunity to step away, turn, upward block. That's the old pattern. What's the new learning? Counter reverse punch. Uh-oh, there's that transition again. So now I'm going to step through, right upward block, counter punch. Now again, like in short form one, I face 12, I face 9, I face 3. What's the last direction left to face is 6. I've done an inward, an outward, and an upward. What's the last block left to do is down. So from here, I'm going to step into my next stance by doing the only step left to do, which is my left foot, downward block, counter punch. Now, here's my problem. I just downward blocked with my right hand, and I just counter punched with my left hand. But now, to do it on the other side, I have to downward block with my punch hand. So here, if I try to do this, there's no oomph in that block. So here is where Mr. Parker teaches that everything has an equal and an opposite. So if I can transition, same hand, same foot, same hand, same foot, then guess what? At this point, I'm going to learn that sometimes I have to transition opposite hand, opposite foot. And I'm going to turn to the camera so you can see. So now my hand's in position to do that downward block. So from the reverse punch position, I'm going to draw in, and now I can step back clean with my downward block, counter punch. Now for very beginners, this is where I stop the teaching, and we close. But for those of you who are more advanced, the next step, or next stage, is called short one, part 2. So in short one, part 2, we learned that everything in Kempo Karate has an equal and an opposite. So if I'm going to start short one, part 2, I'm going to start with an inward block with my left hand, because that's the opposite of short one. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to inward block off my rear hand, and that's the reverse of short one. Now I'm also going to learn that I can use my blocks as strikes, because my strikes can be blocks. If I can do that on one side, I'm going to step away, and I'm going to do the opposite of short one, the reverse of short one, use the block as a strike. Now I continue the pattern. So from here, outward block towards 9 o'clock with the opposite hand, then I do the reverse, then I use the block as a strike. If I can do it on one side, I do it on the other. Here's the opposite, the reverse, the block is a strike. Uh-oh, time to face a new direction, because I got to go in reverse in my stance. So I cover, upward, up. This is the opposite of short one. Now the reverse of short one. Now I'm using the block as a strike. If I can do it on one side, I'm going to step away. I'm going to do the opposite, the reverse, the block as a strike. Now, throughout this kata, you may notice that I'm maintaining the neutral stance during this point. The only thing that's turning is my hips. So from here, it's up, okay? So I'm turning, boom. Now, the opposite would be to face 12, downward, downward, downward. If I can do it on one side, I do it on the other. Down, down, down. Now the last part is what we call our isolation motions. Moves we will see again. And for advanced students, you know you see that in long kata number 2. The first thing I do is what's called a downward outward block. It shoots down and moves. Down, down. Well, if I have a downward outward, I gotta have a downward inward. 1, 2, 3. If I can block closed hand, I can also block open-handed. Palm, 2, 3. Now, after every block comes a follow-up. So I follow with my right and my left. Well, I already know how to do that. So now I learned that sometimes I punch on angles. 1, 2. Well, if I can go to a 45-degree angle, I've got to be able to do a full 90. Now, once I've covered all the punches along the horizontal plane, then there must be an opposite, which is the vertical. And close. Now I'm going to go ahead and do the kata at speed. Kempo kata, long 1. us. Long form number one.